Mehor had grown used to the silence that followed her wherever she went. Not the peaceful kind, but the uncomfortable, judgmental silence that filled rooms whenever she entered. Aunties would glance at her, and then quickly look away, whispering, behind teacups. Uncles would ask her name and age, but never her dreams. And younger girls avoided standing too close, as if her size might rub off on them. She smiled through it all. At 27, Mahar had accepted that her life would be full of polite rejections and hidden insults. At weddings, she was the one helping other girls get ready. At family gatherings, she was the one cleaning up the plates after others had finished laughing. Her weight was always the unspoken reason for everything that didn't happen in her life. She had once believed love would come despite it, but time had taught her better. The latest family wedding was in full swing. Her cousin Rita, a size 0 Instagram star, was getting married to a software engineer who lived in Canada. Guests swarmed the stage to take selfies. Everyone talked about how perfect Rita looked, how lucky she was, how beautiful the couple seemed. Mehor sat quietly in the corner, sipping water and watching the colors blur. A group of distant relatives stood behind her, unaware she could hear them. She's still not married. No, can you believe it? Poor thing. Such a sweet girl too. But you know, yeah, no one wants a wife who looks like that. The words weren't even whispered. Meher closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had learned long ago that crying in front of people gave them more power. So she waited until she found an empty balcony upstairs and let the tears fall silently into the wind. Downstairs, the music grew louder, but up here, everything was quiet. She stared at the sky, a million stars, all shining freely, no one asking them to shrink. She didn't hear her parents come up until she caught their voices from behind the half-open door. I'm worried, her mother said. Mehor won't say it, but I know she's hurting. I know, her father sighed. But what can we do? No one even asks for her hand anymore. She's a good girl, educated, decent, kind, but all people see is her weight. There was a long pause. We may have to consider dowry, her father said softly, just to get someone to agree. Her mother gasped. You can't be serious. I don't want to. But how long will she stay like this? People already talk. Soon they'll start blaming her. Mehor didn't move, didn't breathe. She waited until their footsteps faded before she came out. Her legs felt heavy, but her heart felt heavier. That night, after returning home, she sat in her room staring at herself in the mirror. Not angrily, not sadly, just staring, as if trying to see something no one else ever had. Her face was round, her arms were full, her stomach wasn't flat, but her eyes, they were alive. Tired but alive. That in her hands they had held others through pain. Her voice had calmed crying cousins, had guided students, had told bedtime stories to neighbors, kids. She wasn't useless. She wasn't invisible. So why did the world treat her like she was? She opened her laptop. The marriage profile her mother had created 6 months ago was still active. The inbox was empty. The profile had barely 2 likes. Most matches unmatched her after a day. Some messaged things too cruel to repeat. Still, she stared at it, and for the first time in months, she changed her profile bio from simple girl looking for a good-hearted partner to I don't need fixing. I just want someone who sees me beyond my shape. She hit save. Then shut the laptop. Later that night, her phone buzzed. She didn't expect anything. Probably a spam message or an old friend sending wedding pictures. But it wasn't. It was from an unknown number. No name, no photo. The message read, you don't need to shrink to be worthy. You don't need to hide to be loved. Some people only notice light when it refuses to dim. Mehor stared at the screen. Her heart skipped. She replied, who is this? The reply came almost instantly. Just someone who sees what others refuse to. She didn't sleep much that night, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. The next morning, Mehor sat quietly by her window, holding her phone like it was made of glass. The message from last night still lingered on the screen. She had reread it at least a dozen times. She wasn't sure what surprised her more, the words or the way they made her feel. Seen, respected, maybe even valued. She clicked on the profile again. No photo, just the name Z. No job title, no city, nothing but a quote in the bio. Sometimes, the ones who stay in the shadows see the most. It should have felt suspicious, but it didn't. It felt oddly familiar, as if this stranger somehow knew exactly what she needed to hear. A message popped up. Z, good morning. You slept late. I hope you didn't dream about those aunties again. She smiled. He had remembered her mention of them in one of the late-night exchanges. Mehor, no aunties in the dream, just floating samosas. I think my stomach misses wedding food. Z. That's a good sign. Laughter is your superpower. Don't let them take that too. She stared at the message for a moment. No one ever talked to her like this. Not with care, not with understanding, not without hinting that she needed to change. Over the next few days, she found herself waiting for his messages. Z never asked what she looked like, never commented on her weight. Instead, he asked about her favorite books, her dreams as a child, the weirdest food she had ever tried, and why she loved old Hindi songs. Z, I don't know what you look like, but your words are beautiful. Mehor, I've never heard that before. Z. He should've. His messages came like a gentle rain after years of drought. Mahor didn't realize how thirsty she had been for kindness until it poured, but even as her heart softened, the world outside remained sharp. At breakfast, her mother spoke softly. We got another The boy's mother saw your profile, but she had some questions. Mahor looked up. Questions? She wanted to know your current weight, whether you've tried dieting, whether you'd be willing to lose at least 10 kilos before the wedding. Mahar set her spoon down. Her father added, they're a good family. We're not saying say yes immediately. Just ... consider it. Maybe a little effort. A little effort. That phrase hit harder than the cruel comments ever did. Later that evening, Mahor found herself staring into her wardrobe. It was filled with loose kurtas, safe colors, sleeves that covered her arms, clothes that helped her blend in. She picked out a deep red dress she had bought years ago but never worn. It still had the tag. She slipped it on. It hugged her curves. She stood in front of the mirror and for once, didn't look away. She took a photo, not filtered, no angles, just her. She hesitated for a long moment, then opened her chat with Z. Mahor. I don't usually do this, but I want you to see the person behind the messages. She sent the photo before she could change her mind. Minutes passed. Then his reply came. Z. You look exactly how I imagined. Brave, bold, beautiful. She felt something tighten in her chest. Not shame, not fear. Something softer. Hope. But even hope wasn't safe from reality. The next morning, she received a call from a matchmaker her aunt had hired secretly. There's a boy in Dubai, rich family. They've seen your profile. They said they don't mind the weight as long as you're willing to adjust. Modern boys prefer certain appearances. Mahar's voice was calm. Thank you, but I'm not looking to adjust my existence anymore. She hung up. That night, she told Z everything. About the matchmaker. About her family's disappointment. About how tired she was pretending. Z, you don't need to pretend with me ever. Mahor, I wish I could meet you, talk to you. Just once. There was a pause. Then his reply came. Z, soon. But before I meet you, there's something I need to say, something I've never told anyone. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Mahar, is it bad? Z, it's not easy, but it's the truth. She waited for more, but nothing came that night. She stared at the ceiling, her mind filled with questions. Who was he really? Why did he hide behind an initial? What secret could he possibly be keeping? And why did she already care so much? The next few days were quieter than Mahor had expected. Z didn't disappear, but his replies were slower, shorter, as if he was holding something back. She tried not to overthink, but her heart didn't listen. Each time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was him. Each time it wasn't, something in her sank a little deeper. She found herself scrolling back through their older messages. The way he laughed with his words. The way he noticed things no one else did. The way he made her feel like she mattered not despite her body, but with it, fully and unapologetically. But now, there was distance. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should she ask, push, or wait? Finally, she typed, Mahor, are you okay? A few minutes later, the reply came. Z, yeah, just thinking about how to say something properly. Her pulse quickened. Mahor, you said you had something to tell me. There was no reply for a while. Then, finally, another message came. Do you believe broken people deserve love too? She stared at the screen, then typed slowly. Mahor, maybe they're the ones who understand love best. The typing bubble appeared again, then disappeared, then returned. Finally, Z, I haven't told anyone this, but I was in a terrible accident 2 years ago. I couldn't walk for almost a year. I had to quit my job. I lost friends. My fiancé left. I've been rebuilding everything since. Mahor sat in silence, holding the phone against her chest for a long time. Then she replied, Mahor, thank you for trusting me. I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm glad you're here. Z, it changed everything. I see people differently now. I see you differently, Mahor. How? Z, because I know what it's like to have the world decide your worth by your body. She blinked back tears. That night, they talked for hours. He told her about the rehab center, the hospital corridors, the first time he stood again without help, how he had stopped looking in mirrors, how silence had become louder than pain, and she told him about school bullies, about being the last, picked for everything, about dressing in black so people wouldn't notice her size, about learning to shrink her laughter because people thought it was too loud for a fat girl. They shared the things they had hidden from everyone else. In the quiet of those messages, something delicate formed, not pity, not need, but recognition. He wasn't just a stranger. Anymore he was familiar, but one thing still nagged her. Mahor, why haven't you shown me your face? The reply didn't come immediately then, Z, because I wanted you to know me first, without the face, without assumptions. Just the voice behind the words. She stared at the message, heart racing. Then, a new message came. Z, I want to show you, but if I do, I need you to promise you'll tell me honestly what you feel, Mahor. Okay, I promise. The message notification popped up. Z has sent a photo. Her breath caught. She opened it. It was a blurry, side profile shot. A man standing near a lake at sunset, wind brushing through his hair, his face half-turned, his smile soft and yet. Something in the curve of his jaw, the shape of his shoulders, felt familiar. Too familiar. She zoomed in. Her heart, stuttered. No, it couldn't be. She ran to her old photo albums, dug out a group picture from college. Her debate team. She looked closely at the third row, far right. There he was. Same eyes, same posture. Back then, she had barely noticed him. He had always stayed quiet, faded into the background. A boy with kind eyes who once helped her pick up her books after she tripped in the hallway. She remembered his name. Now Zayan. A classmate. She had forgotten, but he hadn't forgotten her. She stared at her phone in disbelief. A new message came. Z. Still here? She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All this time, the boy she had overlooked had been watching her, silently, kindly, waiting for the moment to step forward. And now that he had, what would she do? She began typing. Her fingers shook, but just as she was about to send a reply, the screen flashed. Incoming call, Rishta. Her heart sank. This wasn't over yet, and somewhere deep inside her, she knew the real test was just beginning. Mehor didn't answer the call immediately. She stared at the screen as it buzzed. In her hand, her thumb hovering over the green icon, the words she wanted to send to Zion sat unsent in the chat window, waiting. She took a deep breath and finally picked up. Assalamu alaikum beta. The overly sweet voice of the Rishta auntie filled her ear. I just spoke to a lovely family from Lahore. They saw your profile and are very interested. The boy's name is Adel Fair, owns a chain of clothing stores, and most importantly, his family is very open-minded. Mehor forced a smile she didn't feel. Auntie, thank you, but I know, the woman interrupted. You've had some bad experiences, but this family is different. The mother herself said, we don't care if the girl is a little healthy, character is more important. Isn't that refreshing? Healthy. That word again. Dressed up to sound polite, but it always cut the same way. When do they want to meet? Mehor asked quietly, part of her already regretting it. They're in town this weekend. Sunday lunch. Wear something bright. Not black again. Mehor ended the call with a sigh. She turned back to her phone. Zion's last message still sat there. Still here. She typed, Mehor Zion. Was that really you in the photo? A moment passed. Zion. Yes. I didn't think you'd remember me. Mehor, from college. You helped me that day. I dropped my book, Zion. You remember that, Mehor? I remember how kind your eyes were, but I don't remember talking to you much after. Zion. You didn't. You were always surrounded by noise. You were quiet, but your silence was different. It wasn't empty. Her heart thudded in her chest. Meher. Why didn't you say something back then, Zion? Because I didn't believe I was enough. I was shy, invisible, and you looked like you deserved someone who wasn't afraid. Mehor swallowed hard. Mehor, and now, Zion, now I'm just tired of hiding. From myself, from you. She closed her eyes. The truth she had longed to hear was finally here, but the timing was a cruel joke. Later that evening, her mother came into her room holding a lemon-yellow dupatta. Wear this on Sunday. It brings out your skin. Mehor didn't respond. Her mother sat beside her. This family seems serious. If it works out, it'll make things easier. Your father is getting tired. He just wants to see you settled. Mehor looked at her mother. Do you care what I want? Her mother hesitated. I care that you're not alone when we're gone. Mehor nodded slowly. It wasn't a bad answer, but it wasn't the right one either. Sunday arrived faster than she expected. She wore the yellow suit, smiled the practiced smile, carried the tray of tea and snacks like tradition demanded. The living room was filled with laughter and polite questions. Adil, the potential groom, was tall and well-dressed. He asked her about her education, her cooking, her daily routine. Then came the moment Mehor dreaded. So, Adil said, lowering his voice just enough, do you plan on losing a little weight after marriage? Just asking, since I go to the gym regularly. Mehar blinked. Before she could speak, his mother added cheerfully, of course she'll lose a bit. All girls do when they're happy. The room blurred. Everyone was still smiling. Mehor placed the tray down and excused herself politely. Once inside her room, she shut the door, locked it, and collapsed onto the bed. Her chest rose and fell in short, sharp breaths. Her phone, vibrated.zayan. Are you okay? Mehor, no. She waited seconds, minutes. Then, Zion, want to meet? Her fingers trembled. Mehor, yes. An hour later, they met at the small park near the old college. She spotted him sitting on the same bench she had once cried on after failing a debate. Round years ago, he stood when he saw her, taller than she remembered, thinner still with those same kind eyes. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other. You look exactly like I imagined, he said, and you look like someone I should have noticed a long time ago. She replied Dasat. I heard about the Rishta, he said gently. She laughed, bitter. He wanted a wife who'd lose weight for him. Like I'm a project. You're not a project, Zion said. You're a person, ho. Already enough. She turned to him. Then why didn't you come sooner? I wasn't brave enough. Until you showed me how to be. Silence stretched between them. Then Mehor took a deep breath. I don't know what this is, she said. or what it will become. But I know this. When I'm around you, I feel like I don't need to apologize for existing. Zion reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded photo, a picture from college. Her on stage, mid-speech, fierce and alive. I've had this for years, he said. Reminded me that real strength doesn't need permission. She held the photo in her hands, stunned. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, her phone rang again. This time it was her father, and his voice was not calm. Mahor, where are you? They left. They're offended. Do you even care what you've done? She looked at Zion. Then up at the sky. The world she had grown up in was pulling her back. And now, she had to decide whether to go back with it or walk away forever. Mahor walked slowly home, her feet heavy and heart heavier. Zion offered to walk with her, but she shook her head gently. I need to do this part alone. He understood, though his eyes followed her, until she disappeared down the street. By the time she reached her front gate, the tension in the air was thick. Her mother stood outside, arms crossed, face pale. Her father waited in the lounge. Pacing the room was silent, too silent. Even the clock on the wall ticked like a warning. She stepped in and placed her bag down. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Her father turned to her, eyes narrowed. Do you even understand what you've done? Mahar stood still. I understand that I walked away from a man who didn't respect me. That family left humiliated. Her mother added, they said you were rude, distant, and arrogant. I wasn't rude, Mahor replied. I just didn't laugh at their fat jokes or agree to be someone's gym project. Her father's voice rose. You are ruining every chance you get. Who do you think is going to come next? A prince? No, Mahor said firmly. I'm not waiting for a prince. I'm waiting for someone who sees me, not just my body. Her mother's eyes welled up. We're not your enemies, Mahor. We're just tired. Tired of watching you cry at night. Tired of pretending we're not worried. Mahor stepped closer. I know, and I'm tired too. Tired of pretending I'm okay with being treated like a charity case. Her father sat down, exhaling slowly. Is there someone else? She hesitated. Yes, his head snapped up. Who? Someone from my past. Someone who sees me clearly. Her mother's voice was a whisper. Does he know what he's choosing? Yes, Mahor said, and he's choosing it anyway. There was silence again. The kind that sits in your bones. Her father finally nodded, more tired than angry now. Then bring him here, he said. Let us meet this miracle man. Mahor didn't respond right away. She wasn't ready to bring Zion into the fire. Not yet. She went to her room, shut the door, and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, she wasn't ashamed of walking away, but she wasn't sure what came next either. That night, her phone buzzed. Zion, how did it go? Mahor tense, but I said what I had to. Zion, good, you deserve that freedom. She paused, then typed, Mahor, I want you to meet them, but not as a miracle man. Just as you, he replied instantly. Zion, anytime. Just say the word. Mahor smiled. The next few days were strange. Her parents didn't bring up marriage. They watched her, quiet, curious, maybe even scared, as if they were seeing someone new take shape in front of them. On Friday, Mahar invited Zion to lunch. He arrived right on time. Simple clothes, clean look, a nervous smile. Her father observed him like an investigator. Her mother watched his every move. Zion sat down, calm but respectful. Uncle Auntie, he began. I know I may not be what you imagined. I don't have a big family name. I don't have a perfect past. But I have deep respect for your daughter, and I intend to honor her, not fix her. Her mother raised an eyebrow. Do you have a stable job now? I've started my own design studio, he replied. It's small but growing, and I'm also working part-time with a rehab center. And what about your health? Her father asked. Will it affect your future? Zion looked him in the eye. I walked with a slight limp, but I carry no burden. Mahor smiled softly. After lunch, her parents whispered in the kitchen. She could hear fragments. Seems sincere, but is sincerity enough? That night, her mother entered her room. Your father still has doubts, she said, but I saw something today. What? Mahor asked. Respect. And that's a rare thing in rishtas these days. For the first time, Mahor saw a sliver of acceptance in her mother's eyes. But the peace didn't last long. The very next day, an old school friend, Alina, sent Mahor a screenshot of a message circulating in a WhatsApp group. It was a forwarded image from her college days one, taken secretly during a class break. A close-up of Mahor laughing, eyes closed, mouth wide, body visible from an unkind angle. The caption read, Can't believe someone actually proposed. To this standards really dropped. Mahor stared at the screen, her breath catching. Her old pain returned like a slap. Alina messaged, Ignore it, Mahor. They're just jealous. But I thought you should know. She put the phone down, eyes burning. Minutes later, another message came this time, from an unknown number. Your fairy tale won't last. People like you don't get happy endings. She froze. Then she picked up her phone and called Zion. He answered immediately. Hey, she didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just said, They're trying to humiliate me again. Zion's voice was steady. Then we don't stay silent. Meet me tomorrow. I have a plan. Mahor nodded. This time she wouldn't hide. This time she would walk into the storm with her head held high. Meher barely slept that night. The photo kept flashing in her mind, her wide laugh frozen mid-frame turned into mockery by people who only knew cruelty. That image wasn't ugly, it was real, it was her. But the caption, the cruelty, the anonymity, it clawed at her, like old wounds reopened. By morning, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Some old classmates messaged her in secret, offering sympathy. Others sent emojis pretending to joke. Even a few strangers had found her Instagram and left passive-aggressive comments. She didn't respond to anyone. Her fingers shook, but her resolve did in single quotes. She met Zion at the same park bench later that afternoon. He was already there, holding 2 cups of tea. I didn't know what kind you liked, so I got one sweet and one strong, he said gently. Mehor gave a weak smile. I think today, I need the strong one. He handed it over and waited until she took her first sip. Then he said, I saw the photo. Her face turned slightly. Do you think it's embarrassing? No, he replied without hesitation. I think it's beautiful. She blinked. You were laughing, he said, with your whole face. Most people don't even know how to do that anymore. Her throat tightened. They want you to feel ashamed, Zion continued. Because, if you do, they get to feel powerful. But what if we take that power away? How? She whispered. By owning it. By saying yes. That's me and I don't owe anyone smallness to be worthy of love. She was silent. I have an idea, he added, a risky one. She raised an eyebrow. I want you to post that same picture, on your account, with your own caption, before they twist it more. She stared at him. That would only bring more hate. Maybe, he admitted, but it could also bring something else, freedom. Mehor didn't answer right away. Sat on that bench for a long time. By the time she got home, she had made up her mind. Her fingers hovered over the photo again. She opened her Instagram and took a deep breath. She uploaded the picture, caption, they thought this would break me. But this is the laugh of a woman who's finally free. I'm not hiding anymore, and I'm not sorry. She hit post. Almost immediately, comments started flooding in. Some were cruel, still delusional. She should be ashamed. Stop glorifying obesity. But others, you're brave. This is the real kind of beautiful. I needed to see this. Today, strangers began sharing the post. Some added their own stories. Some thanked her. One girl messaged her, I've hidden my smile for years. Today, I smiled wide. By nightfall, her post had gone semi-viral. Not millions, but enough for the truth to rise above the noise. At dinner, her father asked, did you really post that photo? She nodded. Yes. He looked down at his plate. They sent it to me. A cousin said we should control our daughter. And what did you say? She asked. He paused. I said my daughter is the only one with courage in this family. Meher's fork stopped midair. Her father wasn't looking at her, but something had changed. Later that night, Zion called. You're trending, he teased. I'm surviving, she replied, laughing for the first time all day. You did something bold, he said. Even if it scared you, she sighed. It still scares me, but I don't feel ashamed anymore. There was a long pause on the line. Then Zion spoke again. Mehor, I love you. Her breath caught. He continued. I've waited to say it. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything, but I've loved you since long before you ever knew who I was. Tears welled in her eyes. I love you too, she whispered. It wasn't dramatic. No background music. No spotlight. Just a quiet exchange between two people who had carried pain long enough and finally found safety. The next morning, her mother walked into her room, holding her phone. There's a journalist, she said hesitantly. Wants to interview you. Saw your post? Said you gave voice to thousands. Mehor blinked. Me? Why? Because you didn't flinch, her mother said. And that scares people. She nodded slowly. Later that day, Mehar stood in front of her mirror wearing a simple, sky blue kurta. No heavy makeup, no filters. Just herself. Zion picked her up at noon. They were headed to a women's conference, where she'd been invited to speak on digital bullying and body shame. As they pulled out of the driveway, her father stepped onto the porch. He didn't say much, just waved. But it was enough. As the car drove through the city, Mehor scrolled through her inbox. Among the messages of support was one from an unknown ID. Enjoy your 15 minutes. The world always finds a way to knock girls like you back down. She stared at it, then deleted it, and smiled. Because this time, she wasn't afraid of falling. Had learned how to rise, and she had someone by her side who would never let her forget how high she deserved to stand. The hall was buzzing when Mehar and Zion walked in. It was a modest venue, filled with folding chairs, makeshift stage lights, and hopeful eyes. Young girls, older women, students, bloggers' faces from all walks of life, sat waiting for the girl who had gone viral with nothing but her truth. Mehar's heart pounded in her chest. She had never stood in front of a crowd before, not like this. Not to speak about her pain. She squeezed Zion's hand. He leaned in and whispered, "You don't have to perform. Just tell your story. The rest will follow." Her name was announced, followed by soft applause. As she stepped onto the stage, 100 eyes looked up. Some curious, some supportive, some unsure. She felt her voice catch for a moment. Then she remembered the girl in that photo, the one they tried to shame. That girl wasn't weak. She was laughing. Mahor adjusted the mic and began. I used to believe I had to shrink myself to be loved. Then I had to wear loose clothes, speak softly, and apologize for taking up space. Because that's what the world taught me. Every time someone looked away, every time a rishta turned me down, every time an auntie whispered behind my back, it built a wall inside me. And I started living behind it. The room was silent, but something changed, she continued. One day someone looked at me not as someone who needed to change, but as someone already complete. He didn't rescue me. He reminded me I didn't need rescuing. Her voice trembled slightly. They tried to humiliate me by sharing a picture of me laughing too freely, and instead of hiding, I shared it myself. Because I'm done hiding, done apologizing, and I hope, after today, someone else will be too. There was a pause, then applause, then standing applause. Zion watched from the side, eyes filled with pride. After the talk, dozens of people came up to Mahor. Some hugged her, some cried. One teenager whispered, "You made me feel like I'm not disgusting." Mahor held her tightly and said, "You never were." They left the venue in the late afternoon light, both exhausted and overwhelmed. As they walked through the parking lot, Mahor turned to Zion. "Did that really happen?" He grinned. "You just set fire to the lie that only perfect bodies deserve love." She smiled, but her mind was already moving forward. That evening, back home, Mahor's parents sat her down. "We've been thinking," her father began, "about your future, about your choices." Her mother continued, "We weren't fair to you. We let fear guide us. Fear that people wouldn't accept you, that you'd be lonely. But we see now you were never alone. You were just unheard." Tears rose in Mahar's eyes. Her father reached into a drawer and pulled out an old silver anklet. "This was your grandmother's. She wore it the day she got engaged. If you choose to marry Zion, we'd like you to have it." Mahor gasped. Softly. Her mother smiled. "It's not a yes to him. It's a yes to you. To your choice." That night, Mahor stood on her balcony under the stars. Zion's message came in. "Zion, are you okay?" Mahor, "Better than okay." "Zion, you were amazing today. Brave, loud, free. Mahor, you believed in me before I did. Zion, always will." There was a pause. Then another message. "Zion, Mahor, I want to ask you something, but only if you're ready." Her heart skipped. She stood frozen for a moment. Mahor asked a few seconds later. A photo came through. It was a picture of a small silver ring, placed on top of a blank notebook page. Below it was a caption, "Will you write the next chapter with me?" Mahar's hand trembled as she held the phone. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she sent a voice note. Her voice was soft, filled with emotion. "I don't want a fairy tale, Zion. I want the messy, real, imperfect life with late night fears, random fights, and healing in between. And yes, I want to write it with you." He replied instantly. "Then let's begin." But just as the joy settled into her chest, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was an anonymous message. "Enjoy your spotlight. But remember, no one forgets the fat girl who dared to feel pretty." We'll be watching. Mahar stared at it for a long time. Then she did something different. She screenshot the message and posted it online. Caption, "They'll always try to pull you back, but some of us weren't born to fit in. We were born to break patterns." And once again, her post spread like wildfire, because something had shifted now. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every girl who had ever been told to stay small. The sun rose slowly over the rooftops, casting soft light across Mahor's room. She sat at her desk with a cup of chai, her fingers poised above the keyboard. Her inbox was flooded again, hundreds of new messages from women around the world. Some sent photos of themselves smiling for the first time in years. Others shared stories of rejection, heartbreak, survival. One simply wrote, "You made me brave." Mahar replied to each one she could, no matter how short. Her words were no longer about going viral. They were about building a bridge for every woman who had ever been shamed into silence. Downstairs, her mother was busy preparing breakfast, humming an old song. Her father scrolled through the morning paper, looking up every few minutes to glance at Mahar's latest interview featured on the lifestyle page. Their pride was quiet but real now, no longer coated in fear. Later that day, Zion arrived with a bag of groceries in one hand and a goofy smile on his face. "I brought pasta ingredients, but I may have accidentally bought the wrong kind of cheese." Mahor laughed. "You're forgiven, barely." It was messy and imperfect, exactly what Mahor had dreamed of. When the meal was finally ready, they ate on the floor with their plates balanced on cushions. Zayan wiped his mouth and looked at her. "Have you decided?" he asked softly. Mahor paused, her heart steady. "Yes." He didn't blink, just waited. She reached into her drawer and pulled out the anklet her parents had given her. "I want to wear this. But not because I'm giving up something. I'm choosing you with all of me." Zion's eyes softened. "And I'm choosing you with every piece of me still healing." Just the steady truth of two souls that had learned to love beyond shame. Weeks that followed were filled with preparation, but not the kind her relatives expected. There was no crash diet, no beauty salon bookings, no shopping sprees to hide her curves. Mahor designed her own wedding invite, simple, bold, and filled with color. She wrote a note inside each one. "This is not just a wedding. It's a celebration of becoming unapologetically ourselves. Some aunties raised eyebrows. Some distant cousins whispered about her too modern approach. But others, surprisingly, joined in. A neighbor girl, shy and round-faced, hugged Mayher tightly one day and said, "You make me want to stop hiding." The wedding was held in a small garden surrounded by fairy lights and hand-painted signs that read, "Come as you are." Mayher wore a deep maroon dress stitched to fit her body, not to hide it. She didn't cover her arms. She didn't wear high heels to look taller. She didn't tie her hair tight to slim her face. She just showed up real, radiant, and absolutely herself. As she walked down the aisle, people didn't gasp because she looked different. They gasped because she looked free. Zion waited at the altar, with a look in his eyes that said, "You were always enough." Their vows weren't long or poetic, just honest. Zayan said, "I promise to never make you feel small." Mayher said, "I promise to never shrink to make others comfortable." The crowd stood in applause, not out of tradition, but because something sacred had happened in that moment. A shift, a rebellion, a truth spoken out loud in a world that often whispers its cruelty. Later, as guests mingled and music filled the air, Mayher stood alone for a moment under the trees. She looked around the fairy lights above her, the laughter of old friends, the scent of cardamom and jasmine in the breeze, and suddenly, she remembered the girl she used to be, the one who cried quietly after every rejection, the one who feared mirrors, the one who thought love had a size limit. She whispered under her breath, "Thank you for not giving up." Just then Zion came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her, and rested his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" Mayher smiled. "About how pain doesn't disappear, but it doesn't win either." He nodded. "Because we rewrite the ending." As they stood there, her phone buzzed again. Another message. But this time it wasn't hate. It was a photo. A girl in a wheelchair wearing lipstick, grinning wide. Caption, "Today I wore red. Because of you." Mayher held the phone to her chest and exhaled. The world hadn't changed overnight, but a spark had been lit. And sometimes all it takes is one spark to set the silence on fire.